And then the mouse turned round and said, "It's not a hat, it's a banjo."
Fantastic. Brilliant.
Dear. They don't get any better, I'm afraid.
No,
They don't
so
get
it
any
would
better.
seem.
So
No,
it seems
no,
get
they
any
don't.
better.
Week after week,
Week
they
after
don't.
week. Yeah, absolutely. I'm here all week. Try the veal.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Digital Download. I'm Rob Durant. Like Hollywood Square's regular Paul Lind, you usually see me as one of the many regulars in these tic-tac-toe boxes, but today I've been elevated to guest host. After a brief hiatus, we're back to our regular time slot. Tim, how was Jubilee?
Oh, it was amazing.
That was it. Not a big royalist then, Tim.
Yeah. So we in the States have no concept of royalty anyway. Well, not beyond the Kardashians anyway.
Same thing.
Yourself, don't ask Tim about the Jubilee.
Yeah, right. So often at this point, we'll go round the horn and introduce everybody. But I'm going to hold off on that. When we get to the content sharing portion of today's show, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, give a brief explanation of how you came to be a part of this community, and then share the content you prepared for today. To let the audience in on it, I asked each to bring content from other communities they're a part of to give you a sense of what else is out there and maybe inspire you to seek them out and become a part of them yourself. Now, Tim, we have a guest lined up. Is he in the green room?
No, not yet. Sorry.
Okay, moving on.
Dealing with it well, Rob. Dealing with it well.
Keep going, Rob.
We are live, and that's what we're going to do.
Here we go.
Awesome.
Yes, I'm here.
Isar, perfect timing. Let me start off by saying, first, I greeted everyone here with good morning, but I suppose that's not exactly correct, is it? We have people joining us from all over the world, and many of our regulars are in communities where it's the middle of the afternoon. So let me start over. Welcome, everybody, no matter where you're joining us from, no matter when you are joining us, live or recorded, and whether you are a regular contributor to our community or you're new here. Welcome to another edition of the Digital Download. And I use the word community intentionally here because that's the theme of this week's Digital Download, community. I want to start by introducing our guest, Isar Metis. Isar is the CEO and co-founder of Be the Stage. His company helps other companies build community. But rather than me telling you about what he does, Isar, welcome.
Welcome.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much, Rob, for inviting me. And I think what you guys are doing is really cool, right? Having a community of people that have a shared purpose that gets together to help each other is literally the strongest power there is in the human world, right? And that's why we do what we do. We do what we do because human relationships are the biggest driving power there is around anything, including businesses, right? That's just a subset of everything that we do. I guess I have the same haircut as everybody else, so I can.
Oh, you're in. You can stay.
I'm 100% in.
You got a funny handshake as well.
Well,
just
almost everybody.
Work on the beard. Work on the beard.
Everybody other than Tracy can join the
and Rob
can join the new.
Never did I feel like the guy with the most hair in the room.
I tried to tame my hair today so I'd fit in with everybody.
It's good. It's really there.
That's awesome. But what we really do, we really believe in being relationship driven over transactional driven as A, doing the right thing, and B, the right long-term play for more success for a business. And what we're doing is we're helping other companies build communities as a way to impact multiple aspects of business KPIs without ever talking about their business, by just continuously providing value to the relevant group of people that they're trying to serve and solve their problems and so on. We do this today with multiple companies across different sizes, different stages of businesses, different industries. So it's completely vanilla, because at the end of the day, it's about human relationships. And the idea behind it is very, very simple. Businesses, any kind of businesses, have been built on human relationships since humans started engaging with one another, right? So Homo sapiens exists for about 300,000 years. And once they started exchanging stuff, it was like, oh, I know this guy, he grows goats and I have wheat, and I trust him that he'll actually get me the goat after I give him the wheat. And that was it for until previous century, right? When digital media started happening. So the first time we started having any businesses based on anything other than, I know this guy and I want to do business with him, is very, very late. Like the first influences started when radio happened, right? Like there's a digital influence of what you should buy, and then TV. And it really accelerated with social media, which is the last 15 years. So we are now living in this world where like everything is digital, 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 and ads and clicks and funnels and tripwires and upsells and cross sales and all these. This didn't exist 20 years ago. It did not exist. And what did exist is human relationships. I know this guy. I like this guy. I know what he does. I understand the value he can bring me. I want to do business. So we're wired to that. And everything else that we're now so entrenched in could do one of two things. It could either, I have this psychological trick. I will create scarcity and I will create urgency and I will push them into this funnel and will download this thing that they don't actually need and they will never read, but then I'll have their email and I can send them 1,000 emails and eventually they're going to click one of them. And then maybe option one. Option two is we have amazing tools to now build more relationships and build real communities like you guys. Like you are the best example, right? You get together because you provide value to one another. And through providing value to a community, grow the business. And we help companies build that through a weekly live online talk show that we produce for them. So think about kind of like what you're doing right now, every single week, that comes and provides value. They're not selling anything ever, just providing value to their audience, either themselves or in most cases through hosting relevant people that provide more value to the audience. So I'll stop here because I think that was a very long introduction.
Well,
It's very
thank
good,
you
though.
for that. So we have a few people on our panel today who have played an active part, not just in being part of a community, but they've played a critical part in helping to build them. So I'm going to invite them to speak up, ask questions, and answer some as well. But first, Isar, I wanted to ask you this. Well, first, a quick backstory. I was listening to a recent podcast in which you said there is a difference between building audience and building community. And that stopped me in my tracks. Now, you did go on to explain exactly what you meant by that. But for those that didn't hear the answer, my question is, can you tell us what did you mean by that? And just as importantly, why does that matter?
Yeah.
Ooh, awesome. So I'll say something beyond that. The one that you heard, I gave so about a month ago, there was a large podcasting conference here in Orlando. I think it's the largest in the world. It's like 2,500 people that came in, and I was one of the speakers. And I was speaking about the difference between community and audience, and why do you want a community versus an audience, and how do you build a community versus an audience. So I have, I won't share the slides, but I will share the content of the slides with you guys. There are multiple differences between a community and an audience, and they all come down to the same thing, right? Which is, first of all, an audience passively consumes your content. Meaning, if I create content and I share it, people will consume it. They don't participate in the process. They don't feel a part of the journey, which is the biggest value and the biggest force behind communities, is that people feel a part of it. The other thing is that when people are in an audience, they're disconnected from one another. So I have, I don't know, X number of thousands of people listen to my podcast every week. And most of them don't know each other and never will, like unless they're my friends or my siblings, right? But which are a small minority of the people listening to the podcast. Most of them don't know each other. So, but in a community like you guys, you know each other. If you've been in this thing for a while, you know a lot of private stuff about each other and how many kids you have and where do you live and what your hobbies are. It's people who actually bond and know each other. There's camaraderie that's being built over time. A audience is top down. It's one person or one entity speaking and everybody else listening, which means when that one entity goes away, if I stop recording my podcast, it's gone. Nothing happens afterwards. In a community, it's a bottom up that it's not like one thing on the top with arrows pointing down. It's arrows kind of like all intermixed together, which means if I leave, the community will last if I've built the right community. In a audience, the people in the audience has zero influence on what's happening. So again, because it's a top-down thing, it's I'm going to talk and you guys are going to listen. And I will talk about what I want to talk and you guys will decide if you want to listen or not. In a community, there are shared responsibilities. People are a part of the process. They take active roles in participating and driving this thing. And again, you guys are a great example, right? Each person took a specific role in putting this together. Rob is hosting this time. Another person will host next month. Somebody put this thing together. So you're actively managing this thing. You're not just, oh, I'll come in and see when I want to join. And the last thing is shared purpose, which is maybe the biggest thing, right? So if you have a shared purpose, something you all believe in or you all want to achieve, even if it's for yourselves, but you all want to achieve the same thing, that holds you all together. So huge difference between an audience and a community. The reality is there's always an audience around the community. And the trick is, how do you attract people from the audience, the relevant people from the audience, into the community to make it grow and stronger and so on. So that's a long answer to your short question.
Thank you. I want to pick up on something that you said there. You talked about the shared purpose. So I know Eric, Tracy, you've both had a part in building communities as well. So I invite you all to share, contribute to this. How do you know when there's enough demand for a community? I mean, nobody wants to throw a party and have nobody attend.
Oh, I think that's Tracy Borison's question to answer. That's over to you.
Say, ooh, me. Ooh.
Go on, Tracy.
Don't wait for an invite, Tracy. They're just going to jump right in.
Okay, so there's close to 8 billion people on this planet. And there's very few scenarios where only I am having a specific human experience. So one of the things that happened for me when I entered the world of entrepreneurship was that there's a lot of communities of people doing a thing, right? So I'm implementing webinars as a funnel. I'm building this kind of sales process, right? And there's all these communities for people doing things. And what they're based, I've joined them, right? Because I was like, oh, that sounds like a good thing. And then you go in and they're just like, here's the curriculum, make it work. And you're like, it's not that the curriculum is bad or any of those things, but like, now I'm here doing this all alone. And every time we're doing something alone, it feels hard. So I think when it comes to community versus other things in the marketing arena, where you're like, maybe you want to like market test it to see if there's a community, like people who want to buy this, right? Like when it comes to community is about like all the things I said, right? Bringing people together, feeling connected, feeling a sense of belonging. And it doesn't have so much to do with what you're doing, like the activities. It's about encouraging activities so people move forward, but the specific activities aren't really the relevant thing. It's about being together. And we are living in this age where for probably the past 30 years, we've been pulling people apart, right? We say, here's the digital experience. You can be over here. You can be over here. I mean, we're coming to this show from all over the world, right? And so we don't really notice socially what that does to us. It creates this fragmentation, and community is about just bringing people together. And I don't believe, I'd love to hear what Eric and Isar have to, I love to hear what everyone has to say about this, because I can't, I've always said, like, I can never have too many friends, right? Like, there's certain people in your life that serve a purpose in this area. There's certain people in your life that serve a purpose in this area. Your spouse does one thing, your children do one thing, your business community does one thing. And it's not like, I don't think there's ever not room for community as long as we want to feel connected with people. I think it's a deep down human need. So from a community perspective, there's always room, and you just be clear about what this community is for. We could probably talk a bit about that too, in terms of the specificity, in terms of what we're here to do. But other than that, I think there's always room.
I can't believe you just managed to say the word specificity at like 6 a.m. for you.
I'm just going to high five myself for that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Usually I would screw that up.
Specificity. Outstanding.
Thank you for the comment, Jess.
And a good shout from Jess. Jess there as well. Really good communities validate your personally, professionally. Your pain points are felt by the group, and you work to change things for the better together. Awesome. Quote of the week so far, I think.
I think absolutely everything that you said there, Tracy, was spot on. I think that in practice, there's a huge gulf between what a community could be and what a community ends up being. So, ESOT does this for businesses. The problem inevitably is that a business wants to monetize the investment that it makes. And I'm part of a number of groups across various different either web-based forums or Facebook groups, or in some cases LinkedIn groups. I tend not to engage so much in LinkedIn groups. And the reason that I don't is that they tend to be commercial entities. So we've started a group. We want this to absolutely demonstrate that we are experts in this field. We're absolutely about the customer experience, as long as they buy something at the end of it. The Facebook groups, I'm a member of, and I've got them open on a tab on another browser. I love architecture. So and I love concrete architecture. Brutalism Appreciation Society is one. British road scenes from the 1950s. So, cars driving down old-fashioned streets, and of course, guitars. None of those have got any commercial element to them at all. They're a group, further to your point, Isa, of interested people that share something, coming together to share their experiences, their journey, their expertise, whatever it may be. And there's no possibility of me or the group member monetizing that. Now, the problem is, and we talk about this quite a lot, is that companies pay lip service to wanting to enrich and improve the customer experience. We're going to do some customer journey mapping. It's got nothing to do with the customer's buying journey. It's got everything to do with my selling journey. And it's about putting my things in front of them to help force the customer to do what I want them to do and put their hand in their pocket. And that ultimately is what breaks communities. That turns them from communities into audiences or groups. Right? And I wasn't going to dwell too much on this. We as a team have a number of things that we do that have no immediate commercial impact. One of them is this. We chat about stuff which is hot for us at the moment. Community. Yeah, let's have a conversation about that. People in the audience may all queue up and buy from us. They may not. The purpose of this is not to sell to them. The purpose of this is to get some debate, and we learn as much from the audience as they learn from us. Eric runs his breakfast show on a Thursday morning, the Big Live Breakfast Burrito. 200 people tune in before the working day on a Thursday to have some fun. Nothing else. Eric talked about funitizing rather than monetizing. It's about enjoying yourself. And Eric and I run a show on a Friday afternoon about music. We're not in the music industry in any shape or form, but we like to talk about albums and how they've shaped our lives and what's good and what's bad about them. And I think that the problem is that in the business context, for either the company that's funding it or for you, the individual, it's very hard to divorce your passion for your job. And let's be honest, for most people, they're passionate about their company because it pays their mortgage, not because they actually care about the company. It's very hard to divorce that from creating that community experience.
Oh, can I play on that for a second, just to get
Please.
a little woo?
And Adam, before we go into that, Adam, could you answer Robert's question for us, please?
How many guitar groups? Well, a number of very specific guitar groups on Facebook, but I'm also
His wife says too many, Robert. By the way,
yeah. But guitar groups are like guitars. It's N+1, isn't it? But the acoustic guitar forum online is the one, really. It's the biggest group.
I like the fact that you said you were in a group that looks at old photographs of cars on motorways, and I just love the fact that you're up till 3 a.m. arguing as whether it's an Austin Allegro or a Princess.
Yeah. What else is there to
I think you'll find with the exhaust arrangement on the back of that car, it's actually an Allegro.
Absolutely. Good point, Jess.
There's a fine line between it and an echo chamber. Yes.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is.
I
Absolutely.
totally agree with you, Jess.
Tracy, you were going to pick up on something, and
yeah. Sorry, Tracy.
Just to get a little woo woo for a Friday morning where I'm at. Some of these things, like talking about guitars or talking about cars on motorways, I'll tell you that that's not my thing. Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, things are things that I would talk about and get hyped about. But those things bring us energy, right? So another thing that I think we miss in the like community building process is that we have to feel like we belong to something. I think for a lot of community creators, we create the space for other people, and then we forget that the whole reason why we created the space is because I needed a space like that and I didn't have one. And part of it is for you to feel like you belong. The reason why we participate in those conversations is because that's what makes us feel like we belong. And regardless of whether or not that conversation is work related, when we feel a sense of belonging, we get to show up better, show up as our authentic self. So when you're doing work or having a conversation, you're just being you. And that's what Isar said it too, right? That's what attracts people to people.
But I think that's the Siamesing of these worlds, isn't it? So what used to be the case was that you would meet somebody in a business context, you would do rapport building with them. You would talk about, if you've got kids, where are they going to school? What car do you drive? Where do you go on holiday? And you'd find common ground. And, for you, you're passionate about Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. Would you rather be in a work environment doing your business with somebody that shares your passion for Harry Potter or says, I hate Harry Potter, rubbish? Actually, one of them is somebody that you can really feel that you have some bond with and a shared values. And the other one is somebody that you don't. And I think that that's fundamentally the business output from this is not to generate business, to give you a platform to pitch, but it's to find people that actually you can have a really comfortable, intimate working relationship with without any of that noise that, and that need to find common ground. Everybody knows that Slytherin is the best house. Great. Okay, so let's make that the basis of our working relationship.
Now you're getting into real trouble. Like so far you had us, and now it's.
I was gonna say,
you made.
I'm a Hufflepuff, so we just gotta watch.
You're a Hufflepuff.
I'm just looking forward. I'm just looking forward to Tracy's next. New visitor. New visitor.
Hi.
Hello. Yeah. Very important.
Yeah.
Very important.
And a red.
Absolutely.
What's your name?
This is Nicholas.
Hello, Nicholas.
Hello, Nicholas.
Where are you? You want to say hi?
There he is.
Uh-oh.
He doesn't know what
it's
house
broken.
he's in yet because he's only 4.
He's not Hufflepuff.
He will know though.
Well, he might be.
Yeah.
But my husband is Ravenclaw, so you never know.
I'm just looking forward to the next time that Tracy's trying to close a deal and they're like, Tracy, we really like your stuff. We'd really like to work with you. We'd like to go ahead and place that order. And she says, but first, are you Harry Potter fans? Well, no, we're not really interested. I'm withdrawing my interest in this contract.
Can I tell you guys, because my business partner with your business peeps community hasn't seen Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, or Star Wars. And I'm just like, what kind of reference can I use that you can understand?
That's really horrible, though. You
don't even
shouldn't
know.
take partners like that. It just won't work.
There's other
Daddy's
but-
behind you, Tracy. Daddy's
Yeah.
behind you.
No,
Oh,
Nick
I
is
wanna-
staying. Nick is staying. I like this. I'm staying.
He's on the show now.
Yeah,
He's on the show.
yeah. Can he come
I
back
wanna-
next week?
I
He's
want to touch
hosting
He
next
Rob
wants to come back
on.
every week.
Daddy, the door again.
Daddy just opened up the door again.
Daddy
Come
opened
on,
the door
Daddy.
again.
Don't interrupt the show.
I want to touch again on the question that started this really amazing conversation, which was, is there really interest in everything, right? It's like you started, how do you know that you can create a big enough community? And I actually think it's the other way around. I think the more niche the community is, the more value you're going to provide. And you'll be surprised what communities exist. Like, Harry Potter. Harry Potter is freaking gigantic, right? There's hundreds of millions of people who will join Harry Potter groups because they're interested in it. But you could start a community for underwater basket weaving.
You could.
And it will be a really great community because
It wasn't.
It's a really small niche group of people. And if you're really into underwater basket weaving, you're going to have amazing conversations that you cannot have anywhere else. So I really think it's the other way around. People are like, oh, how build can I? And we build communities for companies. That's my business. That's what I get paid to do. And people are, oh, but how big does it need to be? I'm like, it doesn't. It's not about size. It's about if you have 50 people that really believe in you and what you do and understand your difference, it's pure gold. Pure gold.
Outstanding. Yeah, terrific.
And people, and by the way, we look at this and people going back to kind of like what we do and how is it different in the mindset? Because at the end of the day, we also create content. Like that's how Rob found me, right? He listened to the podcast. So I create content. And we create content for all our clients. And by the way, going back to what Adam said, we never sell anything. There is zero transactional communication in any of the communities that we create. It's value, 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 value all the time. Why? Because then it attracts people and they stay longer and they help each other and it becomes what you guys are doing. And there's ways to create that. There's ways to go from audience to community. And if you want, we can talk about this later on. But the idea of putting this thing together as not a way to monetize the business, but as a way to have real communications with real people that care about the same thing and continuously provide value to one another is what makes it successful, right? So size doesn't matter. Now, I was starting to say about what we look differently. Most companies who create content, which is most companies in the world, because content is the thing to do, go content in. What does that mean? We'll create a lot of content, we'll put it everywhere, and then we'll attract some people. And out of those some people, some will be really interested and they will want to talk to us. And then we can have a conversation with them. And out of those, some will become our clients. That's 99% of companies in the world today. Not necessarily a bad thing, but just that's the way it's real. We look at him like, I quote unquote, not in this for the audience and the content. I go relationship out versus content in. So what does that mean, going relationship out? I care about you guys, right? I really want to know what Adam has to contribute and what guitar is he playing. And
don't start.
I know. I walked right into that one. Or Tracy and her beautiful redhead son and where they are and what they like. That's what I really care about. Now, if I would really care about this and it's a topic that is relevant to our audience, it will attract the right audience and the content is going to be awesome. But how many people watch the content or consume it or like it, from my perspective, is irrelevant. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build relationships. And the relationships are with you, is the people I can speak with, that I can see, that interact with me, that provide me feedback, that elevate my spirit, because we're talking about stuff we're all passionate about. And it's a very, very different mindset that generates magic in the long run, because that attracts more and more people who want to be a part of this thing. So content is a great way to reach to the audience and bring them into the community. Right? But
Very
the
good, yeah.
community, we always say, we like to say this a lot, that at the end of the day, any relationship, any human, friendships, romantic relationships, business relationships, it's all based on co-creation of value. If you're not co-creating value, the relationship will not last. So we are now co-creating value. You have been doing this without me for a very long time. You obviously know each other well and have private jokes, which is a part of having a community, right? It's all those little things that you know that you can laugh about. And it's about co-creation of value. If you can establish an environment in which you're co-creating value, you're generating relationships, you're nurturing relationships. And if you can take that content, if you record, if you distribute like you guys are doing, now you're amplifying what you guys are doing to the audience. Some people from the audience are like, oh my God, this is so awesome. I want to be a part of this. And now they're going to join the group and they're going to co-create value, which is going to nurture more relationships, which will give you more content to attract more people from the audience, which will allow you to create more value. And we call this thing the relationship flywheel because it accelerates over time purely based on co-creation of value, nurturing relationships, and then distributing it to attract more people.
Here, here.
That's what I do for a living.
Very good.
Which is awesome.
I want to, the last question I have, I want to open to all of the community builders on the panel. If there was one critical piece of advice people would need to know when they're considering building a community of their own, what would that be?
Ooh, crikey. One critical piece of advice.
I think Esau nailed it when he said it's not about size. So I think that when most people set out, they look at the volume of people that are part of the community and they think that it succeeds or fails based on that. Well, the community's better. We've got 100 people now. We've got 200 people now. We've got 500 people now. And actually, it's got nothing to do with it because 5 people that love you, amplify your message and spend loads of money with you and help you develop your thinking and your business are worth 1,000 people that don't. And I think that so often we focus on the wrong metrics in life as well, don't we? And I think there's a really important lesson there for everybody.
Yeah, my advice, Rob, would be that if you're sitting in a meeting and someone's saying, let's create a community to sell more, you're in the wrong place. You will sell stuff because of it, but if you start off thinking, how are we going to sell more? You're in the wrong place.
Yeah, I was going to say, kind of playing on both of those things, is the intention of the community. Yeah. Like, what is the intention? And you have to have a clear intention. And that means, by nature, excluding specific people, right? Like, one of the things when we were looking at the Your Business Peeps community, right in the way. Come on.
You're doing well, Nicholas.
You're doing very well. I'm loving this. Seeing you cope under pressure. This is cool.
Yeah. His favorite thing is to like press his head into my face when I'm trying to talk, and I'm not sure where that came from. But one of the things about Your Business Peeps is that we're trying to create space for people to practice showing up as their authentic selves, which means you have to show up to do it. So it's based on live events and attending live events and talking to people and having coffee chats. And there's some people who just don't want to. Nicholas, excuse me for a moment, please. There's just people who don't want to do that, who aren't ready to co-create that way. Yep. And that is okay, right? And this is what this community is about. This is how we operate this community. So
because we've all been in the situations, haven't we, Tracy, where we join some sort of community, whether it's online or offline, whatever, and within 5 seconds, someone comes up to me and goes, "Hi, I'm Steve, and I work for the so-and-so company," and you go, "I'm out of here because I didn't come here to be sold to. I came here to talk to people and network and stuff like that. I'm not interested in being pitched to." And everybody feels that until they're sitting in a meeting and someone says, "What we need is a community, isn't it?" And they go, "Oh yeah, we could sell more stuff."
My 2 cents would be have a look around. If you have an idea, have a look around and have a little think to yourself about how you could do that differently and give people a different experience. Try and be unique. Try and be unique. There's lots and lots of, for every community you can think of, you can find versions of it. So if you have to do something which is a kind of me too, craft it in a way that gives people a completely different experience. Even if you're doing something that someone else is already doing, try and make it unique enough that people are attracted to it because it's got that. When you were a kid and you used to go along to places or like groups or the Cubs or the Scouts or whatever, and you would walk in and you would get the sense, I either like it here or I don't. I either like it here or I don't. There's something different about this. For me, it was Laser Quest. I was really into Laser Quest when I was a kid, right? And I walked into my first ever Laser Quest place and just went, I'm home. I will be here forever. I will be here forever. Just have my food sent here, and my mother, I'll send home dirty laundry from this location of Laser Quest in Glasgow in Scotland. And I walked in and felt, ooh, I've never seen this before. This is really different. I want to be part of this forever. And every weekend, every waking hour, I could be in that Laser Quest hall. I just wanted to be there with the people, and we'd go in, we'd do the sessions, we'd come back out, we'd sit there, we'd have the dreadful wimpy burger and the Coke, and we'd sit there, and then we'd go, do you want to go in again? Yeah, let's go in again. And we all got to know each other, and it was really cool. So that whole experience of walking into new and exciting and unique, you might be sitting there thinking, I really want to do a thing about project management. I really want to do a thing about project management. I'd like to build a community around that. Now, there's probably a bazillion project management digital communities out there. What's your angle on that? What's going to make all the people that are already in the boring, gray, vanilla, horrible project management groups want to walk over and spend their dollar with you? I mean, their dollar entry fee, their metaphoric entry fee. Why should they unplug and replug in with you? And it's got to be something unique and different. And we've got so many tools and platforms we can use now, and little things and support and resources that we can use to just find that little edge, and people will come. People will come.
Yeah. And I think that, I mean, we made a special announcement when we were copied. This format was copied because we were really flattered by it. But the tools that you have available today, through live streaming, through social media, the opportunities that you have to create something new, and to change the standard formats that everybody has, is just infinite. And that's, what you should be thinking about is that, rather than thinking about how you're going to make money out of it. People want people. It probably may surprise a lot of people if you're watching this. People don't want brochures. People want insight. They want to be entertained. They've got jobs to do, and they want you to help them. And that's what I don't. Sorry, I don't like the word value, but because I don't think people understand it. Because a plastic bag is value and a Rolls Royce is value, and therefore you take what you think yourself is the word value and apply it. Whereas, and what I'm thinking or you're thinking are very different things. But if we start talking about insight and entertainment and stuff like that, that's where that's what will pull people to your platform. And what you're seeing here today is the conversation going on, and the community. For me, the difference that I see in community, especially from some of the offline to online, is that if you take something like the Breakfast Burrito, you've got 100 people watching that in the morning at UK time. And you've also got the people in the community, in the audience, talking to each other. And actually, as Eric knows, business has been done between the people in the audience. And that is so powerful, that they feel that they come into an environment where they trust the people. They actually start having conversations within the audience, and they actually do commercial interactions. It's so powerful. Sorry,
That's very cool.
I want to add, so Adam said what I wanted to say, right? Because I said it before, as far as size doesn't matter as my tip. But I will add one more tip, which is the little trick on how you co-create. How do you invite people that are in the audience to be a part of the conversations? And you guys are doing some of that, right? So Rob bringing in quotes that we all relate to is part of the trick. But the trick is to make people feel welcome and to attract them to participate in the conversation. That's what allows them to co-create. And it doesn't matter if it's 2 people in the audience, 20, 200, or 2,000. It doesn't matter. You want to bring people in. And the way 3 little tricks that we do for all of our shows that you guys are welcome to obviously do yourselves, and I see some of it you're already doing. One is we do a call out of everybody in the audience, a roll call, every time we start a show. And what happens is over time you have the regulars, and then you start private jokes, and the private jokes continue in the chat, which is where the community really lives. Is not us, is the chat, is where the magic really happens, right? So you start having nicknames and little rituals as part of the roll call that people all participate in. So that creates, again, that feeling of belonging. The second thing that we do is we invite people to ask questions. And when they do, it's not just, oh, here's a question. It's, I have a question from Eric. He's from Glasgow. He's bold, and he really likes. Oh, well, you don't like old cars.
How
I don't
dare
know
you?
what you like, Eric.
Eric doesn't like anything at all. You're okay.
Anything. And Eric doesn't like anything at all, but he has a question. Now what happens, it's a warm introduction. Now Eric feels, even though he's in the audience in the chat, he feels that he's a part of the conversation. The content that gets created has Eric in it. So now if I create that post and I tag Eric, it's like, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to share it with all my friends and family. So now he feels he's a part of this process. And the last thing is you all touched on it, is people give their time to the community, whether they're in the audience or live within the thing or meet face to face. It doesn't matter. It's the only asset and resource we can't make more of, right? It's our most valuable asset. The fact that you guys are all here is freaking magical, right? Think about it. Like, you have spouses and kids and mortgages and jobs and lives and guitars to play, and yet you're here. And so thanking people for their time as something that is not a given, and it's not a given, it's never a given, is very, very important, again, to make that feeling of belonging. Yes, I want to be here because they understand that I'm here by choice, and they understand that there's value in this, and they choose to be here instead of doing something else. So these are 3 little tricks on how to bring people in and into being a more and more active part of a community.
I love that. Giving people pride of place. On our show that we run, or one of them that we run, we decided that we were going to steer away from, the big social media influencer types. We're going to steer away from them, and we're going to make a show about the people, the real people, the people that we love, the people that we want to see support, and the people who might be sitting in the fringes thinking, well, these live shows are just for, like, people that understand how all this all works, and they're like on social media all the time. Actually, let's get them on. Let's get them on and show them that that the only difference between me, who's on lives all the time, and them is that they just haven't started yet. That's the only difference. The only difference. The only difference. They've got that horrible word we spoke about earlier on. They've got as much value to add as me or anybody else. But I that's not a tip. That's just a thing that we make our show all about the people. All about the people. It's all about the people. It's not about, here's another big 30 million follower influencer to come on here and look how cool I am because I'm sitting beside them and this is really cool and you should listen to us. No, it's about us and who we are. This chap here that's on the screen right now, he lives in Austria. He came on our show to do a little fake skit that we do. We pretend that the camera's just been turned on and we catch people unawares. And he's a professional. He's a PhD professional. And he pretended that he was caught going to the beach with sun cream on his nose and his goggles on, blowing up his water wing, and he had a swim cap on, and he pretended that he was upset that we'd intruded on his camera and just relaxed and had a bit of fun. And just wonderful. If you make your thing about the people in that community rather than everyone come and watch me having a cool conversation with my new influencer friend. Yeah.
I don't know. As far as sorry, go ahead.
You spoiled it now, Eric.
What's that? Spoiled what?
Graham.
Wait.
You didn't know. You've spoiled it.
That's pretend? Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. No. It's all natural. It all just happens. Look into the eyes, not around the eyes.
I wanted to transition to the content that we brought this week. And I wanted to start with you, Eric, because something you said about laser tag really resonated with me. It's that sense of discovery of that new community, that wow, that excitement. So I'm going to ask you to give a brief explanation as to how you came to be a part of this community, and then share with us the content that you prepared for us today.
Sure. So, I came to be part of this community because I joined up with Tim and Adam back in the day a couple of years ago, and we kind of worked together. Crux and DLA Ignite are partnered together, so it was obvious for us because of the kind of work that we do in the social media space, strategic social media space, that if there's an avenue to get live, if there's an avenue to do something that could bring a bunch of people, and we've got people that turn up to this every single week when we do it, and Jess Flack's always there, Robert Masson's always there. We can always count on John Bloomfield and Graham Dallas and all these people piling in because people have written content about this little show saying it's relaxed and it's nice. And
Eric, one of the things, sorry to butt in, one of the things that I love is the fact that some people have actually put on their summary title on LinkedIn the fact that they're a Burritonian.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it's what we never imagined would happen. So being part of this community here and the other communities that we have was just we wanted to do something cool. We wanted to do something different. We wanted to create a safe space for people to come along and learn new things and have fun and relax and chill out and have lighthearted conversations. Tim said to me offline, and he'll hate me for saying this, that one of the things he loves about this little show that we do is the fact that there is no script. There is no written rule, and people disagree with each other, and it's okay to do that. It's okay to do that. Someone will say something in the comments, and we'll go, "Well, is that really correct?" Because there's no airs and graces here. This is just natural. Rob, the thing I wanted to talk about today was actually more industry focused. So it was an example of something that I'm really keen, and I'm sure Isar, I know that Tracy agrees, I know that everyone else agrees, is I'm really keen for industries, companies within industries, to take the idea of creating communities, maybe analog communities, and moving that to digital. That whole idea of doing that. And once you've done that, whether it might be in some sort of portal that people can join where they can help each other and all of that, how can you accelerate that? Now, one of the best examples I had is I do a bit of work with a company called OGV Energy. They're based here in Aberdeen. They're a global. Started out as a magazine, an energy sector magazine, which has now grown. They've grown into a media company. They've grown into all sorts. They've got a large energy industry community, paid community members who all go into a portal and they help each other. Hi, I've got this. I can help you with this. This is new tech, and it's vibrant and it's active. But the guys at OGV Energy wanted to take that to the next level. How can we actually put this onto an open digital forum to allow more people to want to join this community? Now, one of the things that they did was they said, we'd like to start can I share my screen? Is that okay?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to work, but we'll give it a go. Is that showing?
Here we go.
Right. So I don't know if this is going to work, but if I press play here. So one of the things that they started a while back was taking their community, and they created a live show about it. So if I press this, it might end the world, Tim. But right. Can you hear that? No?
Oh yeah.
It what?
Is it too loud? I'll pause that for now. So take the idea of their amazing community and all the good work that it does in the energy sector, and do a monthly live which harmonizes with the community focus that they're doing. It brings to life their magazine every month. This particular month, it just happened to be on asset integrity. And they bring their community members and give them a chance to get on a live portal, a live stream, and talk about the cool stuff that they're doing, the new investment that they had, the new tech that they've got, the fact that they're opening a new office. I'll spin this on a little bit. They happen to have a very enigmatic host. How important do you think culture is ensuring the success of deployment? Would you rate culture as the most important aspect of the success criteria? Great question.
Yeah, fantastic.
So industry leaders from that sector, all chiming in and
first
talking
place.
about
So every
really
stage of the
important areas. They're all community members. They're all working together to provide insight and influence and information about a particular industry. This gets, as you can see, 334 attendees at this little live show. This isn't the community part of the build. This is simply a way of them enhancing a community that already exists and allowing other people to want to be part of this community. And I think it's an excellent example. And one of the things, you could maybe shut that off, Tim, or remove that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And one of the things we're urging, one of the things that we say to all the organizations that we meet is, you're interested in social, you're interested in becoming a social organization. Who runs the leading podcast or live stream in your sector? Who are the technical and commercial digital leaders that run the most amazing podcast in your sector? You might be in subsea engineering, you might be in tech, SaaS, you might be in automotive, aviation. What is it? Who runs the most interesting and successful live stream or podcast in your sector? And many oftentimes when we're sitting in a boardroom, everybody goes, well, no, there isn't one. It's a major opportunity.
Why are you sitting here then?
Yeah, exactly. Now the opposite to that opportunity is, it's our biggest competitor. They already do that. So then we've got another opportunity to do something better, more unique, and claim that digital space. Take some of those community members that are over there looking at that party and bring them across to yours. So I'm really enthralled by, as we said before, if we wanted to create communities 15, 20 years ago, we'd be hampered by geography. We'd be hampered by the tools that we have available, and it would be pretty local, because that's the furthest that we could probably expect to reach, is just like maybe 20, 30, 50, 100 miles away. The world's our oyster now. If you're a specialist and you've got a personality and you've got a voice and you've got a LinkedIn license or a YouTube license, and you know how to work Restream or StreamYard or any of these devices, get on and claim the space. People will come over if you make it unique and interesting. People will come over. So I just wanted to share that little story about an organization who's realized the value in, we have a community. It's a paid thing. It's locked in. It's kind of private. You have to pay to be in it. But people are helping each other and all of that. What happens if you take that and put it on a digital platform to show people how cool this community is? And guess what? Since they started their live, more people have joined the community. Their numbers have gone up because people are like, oh, not only do they have this little community, but every month they take people from it and they put them on this little pedestal, this little platform, and they let them talk about cool stuff and all the innovation and tech and all of that. I just love the way that this whole thing is just suddenly becoming massively enabled.
So phenomenal, Eric. I want to touch on the last thing you said on how important it is. So I assume you know CMX. CMX is maybe the largest group of community builders in the world, and they do a lot of research and stuff. And they do a survey every year by people who run communities, and it's fascinating. It's free, by the way. You can go to the CMX website and download it. It's worth doing. There's phenomenal, fascinating information about community there. But one of the questions they asked is, how do you reward your members, and what do you think is the best reward that members expect as being a part of the community? What do you think is the number one thing?
I just asked the question again so I'm clear.
So what is the number one thing that community members see as being rewarded for being community members?
Time on stage.
So being acknowledged for being a contributor of the community. That's the number one thing. So you get to put people on stage, the stage of the community. There's no bigger acknowledgement, right? This is the thing. And so it sounds, what you said sounds like, okay, well, whatever. It's the thing.
It's the
more
thing.
than financial rewards, more than giving, tchotchkes and merchandise and whatever. The number one thing. So it's phenomenal what they're doing. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Imagine there's not many people saying no to this. Hi, we recognize that you're a leader in your space. We'd love you to come on our show and talk about all the cool things you're doing in your organization. Tell us about your life and tell us about the cool innovation and tech you've got. And no, we're not going to do that.
No, I'm good.
No, we're good. Thanks. We'll pass. That's not for us. All that stuff. Yeah, my goodness.
Can it be scripted? So I'm joking.
But it's amazing, and I'm going to challenge some people that are in our audience today. There are people in this audience. You know who you are. One of them's on screen right now. That needs to start that podcast, that live show, because people will flack around them. See what I did there?
Jess, I know who you're talking about.
Very good.
You're asking for a friend, right?
Yeah, asking for a friend.
Tracy, share with us how you came to be a part of this community and the content that you want to share with us today.
Yes. So the funny thing about this is I came to be part of this community through being in community with people who were part of this community, right? So I was in community with Nick Rayburn, and then Nick was like, oh, you need to meet Eric. And then Eric and I were like, yeah, we should hang out. And then he's like, we have this show, you should come. And I'm yes. I believe in conversation. I believe in places where people, especially as Eric mentioned, where people can show up in conversation and not agree. Like, we're not here to agree. We're here to have a conversation. And part of the conversation is to learn different perspectives so we can learn and grow. And so I'm all over any opportunity to be in conversation with people that I don't know. Like, I was so excited, like, yeah. And Rob was like, oh no, you guys are both in communities. And I'm like, yes, this is going to be amazing. We get to learn from each other. This is what I believe conversation is all about. So that is what led me to this community. And what I'd like to share today is a thing that a community I'm a part of called Your Business Peeps does, which is called no pitch networking events. And so they happen twice a month. And the whole point of them is to give people a space to connect and have conversations that is not based on a stupid pitch. Right? Pitching. I
love the fact that you're being so self-deprecating that you say, I'm part of this community. You made it.
I did make it. But it's just like, it's funny because when I think about this now, for a very long time, when I created the community because it was a space that I needed, that I felt like there was all this business happening, but I didn't want to be part of a place where people told me how to do my business. I wanted a place where I could be surrounded by people who are figuring out how to do their business in a way that was authentic and would represent them. And I just couldn't find it. So I made it. And we've always been, like I said, the point of this to show up, figure out what's right for you, try on ideas. As far as I'm concerned, that comes from being in conversation with people. It comes from showing up and trying out how I describe myself. And we always ask this question, what are you all about? And we have community members that are like, one day I'll be able to answer that question. And the best thing about it is that other members will be like, you're all about this. You're all about this, because they know them as a person. And so in those moments where we're like, oh, we don't have any value to co-contribute. We don't, like, everyone else in the community is like, yeah, but remember how you said this to that person? That was so amazing, right? Like that's the thing. And that's where we build relationships as humans. So if we're going to have a networking event, why would we take the time to just sit and listen to people doing a 2-minute pitch that nobody cares about, right? If I'm going to take an hour, or quite honestly, usually these things go for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, because people just get chatting and don't want to leave. And at some point I'm like, okay, I have to close this Zoom and go for dinner, because like my husband sends my son in when it's time for a meeting.
He did that at 6 minutes into the show. He'd had enough.
She told him
sometimes
to.
he just
give me the hook early. This is going to be a dud.
You were texting him. I saw you.
Get me out of here.
It's like a blind date, right? Please save me.
Yeah, save me. Yeah.
No, anyway, so the whole point is that people come and they chat like this, right? Like you don't get this kind of camaraderie among people if you only get your 2 minutes to talk and you don't get enough time to talk. What if someone said something you're super interested in, like guitars or Harry Potter, right? Like we wouldn't know that Adam thinks that Slytherin is the best house and that Tracy has a riff with him because she's a Hufflepuff. But let's be honest, Hufflepuff never win the contest, so we all know who's gonna win that one. But that's where the fun, that's what I'm going to remember about this conversation. That's what I get to take away, right? Like I saw Rob talking about his pronouns are Marvel and DC. And I'm like, oh, now we need to talk about that, right? This is where people build connection, not in pitches. So twice a month, we have these no pitch networking events. And it just is like the most amazing thing to watch people build relationships with people that they didn't know before that now they're like, oh my gosh, now we have to connect. We have to talk about this and just take that away. It's relationship building. And I just want to, like, before I wrap up, I wanted to just go back quickly to the question about, can online digital platforms ever replace real community? The Your Business Peeps community is a online platform. We have members in South Africa and Croatia and the UK and Canada and the US and Japan and New Zealand, because it's a digital platform. The digital platform nature of it doesn't replace the fact that it can operate as a real community. Real community, we've talked about a whole bunch of things that means, right? It's people interacting with people, creating connection, co-creating, right? Feeling a sense of belonging. That can happen in a digital space. And so I just want to try and break this idea that a real community is in person, because I have much more feeling of belonging and connection and contribution in the Your Business Peeps online community than I ever had in a local community.
Yeah, that's profound. Yeah, big
How
time.
many of you are familiar with Christopher Lockheed? Category design, play bigger. Okay, so the book is called Play Bigger. The concept is called category design. One of the best. It's the business book I read more times than any other business book that I read, and one of those that I go for references for. And he has a newsletter on Substack called Category Pirates, and he's one of the most brilliant minds of our era. So I've been following him diligently. But he talks about native digitals versus native analogs. So we're all dinosaurs here, but a big chunk of the world's population today are native digitals. And he talks a lot about the differences in how we view the world. And the conclusion that he got to is exactly what Tracy said. It's like, there is no real and not real. For us, we grew up in the quote unquote real world, and the digital stuff is a disturbance. Hence why when our kids are doing this all the time, you're like, stop, like, look, there's but for them,
that is the world.
That is the world.
Yeah.
And the live world that we live in is sometimes a disturbance to their universe. This is how they communicate with their friends. This is how they learn new things. This is how they engage with other stuff. And what he's basically saying, there is no real. They're both real.
So taking the phone off the kid might seem to you like you're just putting the phone in a drawer. You're actually putting their entire connection to the planet in the drawer. That's why maybe they're a bit more upset than we would be.
So
I'd be upset.
He's like, they're both real. One is virtual, one is analog. And by the way, if you want to be successful in anything in life in the next 20, 30 years, you better figure out the digital stuff, because that's where everything is going.
Oh yeah, big time.
Tim, what did you bring this week? I'd ask how you became a part of this community, but you created this community. If you want to give a brief overview of that first and then share with us, that would be great.
How this came about was that we had a meeting. It was during COVID. And one of the things that I was trying to do was bring everybody together, because we're a remote company. We don't have any offices. And I saw a lot of people on LinkedIn basically saying they were having sort of stand by the bed meetings where you had to come and say how happy you were. And so I just said, we'll have a conversation. and we'll just talk. The salespeople didn't like it because there wasn't an agenda, and
it gives me a hard time for that.
Yeah,
gives me a hard time.
And we just came along, and then it's like, well, bring something along that you've read or it's made you laugh or something like that. And we're having this conversation, and we're having a conversation. Well, just talking, and then someone said, "Why don't we put this out on live?" And that's what we did, and we've been going now for 12 months. So that's how this came about. It's really just a case of it's an internal meeting sometimes, which we just externalize. Does that answer your question?
Oh, absolutely. Did you
Rob?
have something that you wanted to share this week as well?
Yeah, so I'm part of a community which is the Social C-Suite, which is run by Damien Corbett, and it's just a way of sharing information. And Damien is very, very firm in terms of there's no pitching, there's no recruiters. It's a small group. He only lets senior people in, and if you start posting the wrong things, you get thrown out. So he creates a very, very safe space for people to come along and just share views and have conversations.
Nice,
excellent. I guess that leaves me. So I came to be a part of this community because Tim appeared as a guest on a webcast that a friend and colleague in the Sales Enablement Society was hosting. And I really liked what Tim had to say. I then connected with him. And as they say, the snowball just kept rolling downhill from there. The content that I wanted to share today is in that same vein. It comes from the Sales Enablement Society. And what I really liked about this piece of content, well, first of all, Mike Kunkel is an expert in the field of sales enablement, and he always has lots of great content to share. It's very rich, very dense, full of lots of information. But what jumped out at me this week was of the other tags that he had in this particular post, because sales enablement is more than just enabling sales. It's the combination of organizational development, organizational efforts, best process, business process management, and so on and so forth. So I thought it would be great to share what somebody, a leader in the Sales Enablement Society, talks about, so that the audience here could see and understand, and if that's something of interest to them, they can start following that as well. So I'm getting a reminder. We are well over time, but it has been because the exchanges were really hard to stop. So I wanted to thank everyone for attending today. Isar, thank you so much for being our guest. Eric, good to see you again. Tracy, so good to see you again. Bring Nicholas next time.
And Nicholas.
Yeah.
And Tim, as always, thank you for being such a gracious host. And
thank you, Rob.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Rob, for running a brilliant show.
Until next week.
See you, everyone.
Everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.